WNY, right? WNY Athletics, WNY, whatever you want to call it, right? Stands for Why Not You. And that's the whole mission statement of the brand, right? And we're covering everything of why not you in any pursuit, whether if that's a career field, whether if that's fitness, whether if it's your sport, whether if your sport is fighting, football, basketball, baseball, golf, fucking pickleball, who cares, right? The question is, why not you? You ask yourself every day, why can't I be that guy? Why can't I be the dude who's, at WrestleMania or, being on a UFC stage, making it on, a college football field, whatever it may be. Why can't I be that guy who gets that promotion in the job, whether if it's working in a cubicle, whether if it's in the military, whether if it's anything. You go from a laborer to a foreman, right? The question is, why not you? That's the message we're trying to spread. For those listening, I got that saying and everything, and it hit hard to me. I got it from you. So I wanted to dive in deep more into how you got that saying, where you learned it from and how you applied it to your own career up to this point in life.
Well, I think mine was very easy because my life can be looked at from two thresholds, right? You can look at it from the lens of a massive failure or a miraculous success. And it's interesting. I look at both very evenly in my life, and it impacts me. I try to hold both with weight because I think one keeps me humble and one pushes me forward, right? On one hand, like I had a very successful amateur career that started very poorly, and I had the right training and partners and progression to be in the UFC one day, but it didn't work out that way. So you could look at that as a huge failure. However, on the other hand, I was a high schooler who couldn't bench 185 pounds, right? Someone who didn't start on any major sports team in my life. I never was a basketball, football, whatever, you name it. I was never athletic. I was one of the least athletic people that I knew when I compared myself to anyone. As a student, I had a 2.6 GPA in high school and ended up speaking all around the world as a public speaker, internationally, professionally. And so there's two ways to look at these things, right? But if you're looking at it from that first angle of a miraculous success, which is what we're trying to get at, the key is that even if I had lost every fight I'd ever taken, right? If I was 0 between boxing, MMA, kickboxing, 0-40 something, right? That is still a huge success. Right, the ability to step into such a heralded arena and to psychologically grapple, no pun intended, with the kind of pressure, anxiety, performance issues that come with fighting a grown man in a locked cage, a ring, whatever it may be, whether it's in the parking lot, right, facing the kind of adversity that for the average Joe, you will never even get within 80%. You won't even get within a fraction of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That
pursuit brings about the kind of attitude, the kind of perseverance, the kind of mental fortitude that you're not going to find. This podcast is not a promotion to say everyone go take a fight, right?
Yeah.
But it's a push to say that if someone like myself who had no aptitude towards any kind of athletic background decided that I'm going to go fight killers, and for those listening, I was a welterweight, 170. That is the biggest mix of strong, fast, short and stout, but deadly, or extremely tall, lengthy, wiry, fast, you name it. That is the hardest weight class, maybe 155, but 155, 170, that is the apex of athleticism and strength and power. So for me to compete against absolute murderers on a monthly basis as a child who was somewhat pampered, right? I didn't grow up in Section 8. I grew up in an urban environment. I didn't have to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to survive. I didn't have to fight people in the street. I didn't worry about my safety, right? I mean, I can give you all of Fat Pat's hits, right? I can give you, I got a hell of a play. I'm invited to the barbecue and the carne asada, right? I'm with it in the streets, but I didn't have the typical fighter's upbringing is I had to do this to survive, therefore it's embedded in who I am.
Yeah.
That is not me by any means. If you were to meet me as a sophomore in high school, there is a 0% chance you would say that guy's going to be a professional athlete one day, especially in this domain, right? So the idea is that how the hell does this happen, right? Yeah. Well, the biggest secret is that as long as you are willing to intrinsically work on the craft, there's nothing separating you from anybody that you see on television. Now, yes, there is a ceiling, right? Realistically, even if I think I could have made it to the UFC, sure, maybe, right? Who knows? Would I have been able to beat somebody as athletic as a Tyron Woodley? Probably not, right? But for somebody that wasn't even starting on a freshman JV varsity sports team to even have a chance is enough motivation, enough lessons learned, enough information gathered to succeed anywhere else in life, right? That is enough. Even, like I said, even if I lost every fight, that is enough experience and enough positive momentum to do whatever you want to do, regardless of what life throws your way next, right? And that is the whole point, is that not everyone listening to this podcast has the ceiling to be UFC champion, CEO, etc. But if that takes someone from I think my ceiling is gas station manager to owning a business, that fucking matters, right? And it matters a lot. And so the message would be that the only thing separating you is your lack of belief in yourself. And as cliche and cringe as that might be, you have to look at it from someone like myself who stepped into that arena completely out of place. No tattoos, no abs, no muscles, no ability to then be able to compete on the professional side. I mean, Herb Dean refereed my second fight, right? So I've been in the arena, right? I've trained with the best. I've been into Rufus Sport. I've trained with Anthony Pettis face-to-face. Duke Rufus had the conversations, been in there with some of their best guys, done pretty well, right? For me to even be in that mix is a huge win. So the why not you is just the ethos behind it, right? Is just that there's nothing separating you from your goal besides your own bullshit, besides your own disbelief, besides your own comparison, right? When you go look at, if you're an actor, if you go look at Denzel, yeah, you're going to feel like shit, right? But that doesn't affect your ability to audition at all. It only does if you let it, right? The only thing that's stopping you is your own disposition. And so I would say for anyone listening that, yes, your ceiling may not be the stars, right? But as cliche as it is, if you land on a fucking cloud, that's a hell of a lot better than not trying, right? And again, that's the most Christmas Carol bullshit, but it matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah. And I think, how you just described all of it right there, and especially in your own experience, like it really hits hard to like the message that I'm trying to give with this, that I want like other people like-minded as myself and you, to join this, and it doesn't matter like their background and everything. Cause like you said, like the word oversaturated when you're talking about like the UFC and things like that, like the fight game, right? Because there's a spectacle, and that's how it is in all sports. And that's how it is in fitness too, right? Because you go on TikTok or Instagram Reels, whatever it may, Twitter, right? And you got all these dudes doing dark edits and everything. They got like the little like funk rock, funk rap music playing and everything. And they're flexing because they're juiced up on the sun and shit. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's the matter of like, hey, if you're going to do something, you got to find your end game, right? And if your end game isn't what it thought it is, as long as you keep doing it and you keep building up. Because, like, yeah, you're not fighting anymore, but you're still training, right? You're still training. You're still coaching. You're still pursuing the craft, right? And I think that's a lot of things that, like, people, they set goals and, like, they look at their ceiling like, oh, I'm not there, but I could be here one day, right? Well, it's okay to have idols and role models and heroes and things like that, right? And whatever sport or like passion you're into, right? If you're an actor, looking up to somebody like Denzel or DiCaprio, right? If you're a fighter, looking up to somebody like George St. Pierre, if you're a football player, looking up to your Tom Brady's and your Christian McCaffreys of the world, or, if you're a basketball player, looking up to LeBron, whatever it is, right? But I think when it comes down to like, why not you, right? Like, yeah, well, why not you? Why aren't you able to do that, right? Because what are you doing wrong? Because I think that's one thing you said there is like actually like focusing fully in on the craft, right? And I think that's what we're looking to promote, is because we want people, and we're looking for people to share their story, to join the movement, to spread the word to other people who might need it, right? Because there could be somebody out there who's so talented, so, so smart, so athletically and physically gifted, genetically, whether if they trained their entire lives for something, or just, they had God's gift in their bones and their blood. I think the problem is barriers placed upon them by the ceilings and that they can't see through. And also, I think bad habits has a lot to do with it too, right? Everybody wants, a boxer might want to be the next Mike Tyson, but hey, was Mike Tyson going out on a Friday and Saturday and Sunday night doing a bender, right?
Mike, yes.
Okay, all right, that might have been a bad example, right? But you get my point, though.
Guaranteed, yes.
But
let's
you
say
see my point, though.
The best example would be Marvin Hagler.
Okay,
right? Marvin Hagler literally called his camp prison.
Yeah.
And before the Sugar Ray Leonard fight, which a lot of people think he won, I'm a big Ray Leonard fan. Like, there's no one. If anyone's over 30 listening, you get it. Anybody else would disregard. But he literally went to an island and took no media, took no nothing, didn't move his family out there, nothing, and sat in a prison. He didn't have any. It was like the soldier whose barracks room, akin to Fabian Soto, our boy, who had nothing but a foam roller in his room and a fucking Ranger handbook, right? Because I'm just gonna fucking focus so hard. I have no other influences, right?
Eating MREs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Exactly, right? That's what Marvin Hagler had to do to be the killer that he was.
Well,
and for some people, if you're not talented enough, that's what you have to do, because if you're not, guess what? If you can't jump out of the gym by age 18, you're never going to jump out of the gym. But to get as close as you can be jumping out of the gym, you have to work 10 times as hard as the guy who doesn't give a crap but is super athletic. And that's God did not create man equal, and that's okay, but that's what we have to deal with.
Well, and I think not only regarding all that, that's a discipline thing, right? Like, it's disciplining yourself and knowing, like, okay, my environment's bad for me, my habits are bad for me. Like, if I want to be this type of person I want to be, and doesn't necessarily need to be in your sport or your athletic fitness pursuits. It can be in your career in itself. You got to eliminate things. You got to sacrifice things. You got to isolate yourself from certain things and certain people, right? But I think another part of the whole message, like, why not you, is also just getting started, right? Just putting your foot through the door and seeing what happens, right? And every failure is a lesson, all that good shit. Like, I look at it for myself, right? I did this type of thing. The WNY Athletics 4 years ago was M.A.D Athletics, right? And I was very young. I think I was 18 years old when me and two buddies of mine back then started it off, right? And we were doing the same thing we're doing now, just promoting different people, different type of athletes, influencers, whatever it may be, and sending out an authentic message, not trying to hop on the trends that every other fitness page or Gym Sharks and whatever were posting. We were trying to be real with what we wanted to, what our message was supposed to be. And at the time, and then it was make average disappear, right? But looking back on it, I'm like, man, we were very average. But that's okay. That's the learning point now that 4 years later, I'm doing it again, right? Because even when we were doing it, some guys who were involved with it and everything, we all went our separate ways. Good dudes, but we just had different views on things. But the big thing was we kept doing it. We kept learning from it and everything we're doing. And we came to something like podcasting, like I enjoy to do. Like, I like talking about sports and fitness and talking to people about their experiences, right? It led from us doing just conversations amongst ourselves to interviewing some collegiate athletes to the point where I'm interviewing Andre Williams, former New York Giants and San Diego Chargers, and XFL Houston Roughnecks running back, a former Heisman runner-up at Boston College, to somebody that Rafion Stotts, who at the time was a Bellator bantamweight up-and-comer, and then just 2 years later was the bantamweight champion. Somebody like Eric Anders, an NCAA football champion with Alabama, and then a successful UFC middleweight fighter who 2 years after he was on my old podcast, he's on fucking Joe Rogan, So I looked at it too, and everything that, I do now in my own profession and everything, but why not re-pursuing this? Because I have such a love for, talking to guys like you and, and talking about sports and fitness and sharing my knowledge, sharing other people's knowledge and their stories and everything, and creating a cohesive and a well-rounded community to push this message out to people, because the talent pool in every sport and every realm of fitness is just growing, right? Even in fighting, right? There's guys today who are the top of the food chain, and they would still be the top of the food chain. Some of them, if you put them 10, 15, maybe even 20 years back, right? And that goes in any sport too. But there's also guys, 10, 15, 20 years back who, if you brought them into the realm today in their respective arts, they'd still be the top dog, right? Like, I look at it too, the aspect of, why not you is, why not you do this? Why not you do that? Why can't you become this thing, right? But why not just even try, So I want to ask you, like, what made you, what got you into fighting? What made you be like, this is something I want to do? Like, because you're saying, like, you weren't varsity shit on any fucking high school sports team. You weren't, the smartest dude around. You didn't have some good genes or athleticism or fitness. But all of a sudden, then one day when you're very young, you decided, hey, I want to step into a boxing ring. I want to step into an octagon. Where the hell did that go?
Well, essentially, it was the most unlikely route for me to take, right? I couldn't fight my way out of a brown paper bag at any point in time. I was not physically gifted in any stretch of the imagination, as we talked about. And so what could have been more countercultural or unexpected for me to do? Go fight, right? And my mentality was, if I step in there day one and it doesn't work out, at least I tried, right? I went to a boxing gym and I got beat up, and I have a hilarious story to tell my friends with 2 black eyes looking like a raccoon, right? I have a hilarious story, and it's hilarious, and everyone's laughing at me. And then at least I have some social interaction with somebody, right? Because I was a loser, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's how it went. And so I really went in with the most genuine mentality possible, and that's what I would give to anyone looking to get their feet wet. Not martial arts, right, which is a great path, but whatever it is they think is so universal, like it's a galaxy away, right? Like for those who love comedy, but they couldn't imagine getting on stage, right? What is the worst that can really happen? Realistically, right? You go to a very, very small local spot, you ask around a few times, and finally you get your name on there. You go up and absolutely bomb. You flee the stage. No one knows you. No one ever talks to you again from that night, and your life goes on, right? And that was my mentality with fighting. And then you fast forward 8 years, I'm on the professional stage in front of 6,000 people on a major regional show that has put Jamal Hill fought on the same card as I did, right? My second pro fight, as well as Cody, I'm blanking on his name. He's from Michigan, and I'm gonna get grilled for this, for doing this. But several other top, guys who have been in the UFC for a hot minute, right? Darren Cruikshank, right, was fighting on the same circuit that I was a few different times, the same Michigan regional circuit. So it worked out, and it didn't, right? Again, I've talked about this multiple times, that I can look at my life as a massive success, right, or as a giant failure. Right, but every time I want to look at it as a failure, I look back and say, where did I start from? Right, and for those out there that are kind of in the lull of their careers where they've hit that roadblock, I would say if you started from a place where I did, where you were not expected to be here at all, don't forget that's a victory, right? Yeah. Don't forget that is a huge win, right? To be a leader in your organization, or to be even in the mix of the major organizations or the major ladder you're trying to climb, to even be in the arena you're already in the 90th percentile of the people who are walking planet Earth, right? Yeah. And that was the mindset. The mindset was not setting some kind of crazy expectation that I have to be at this place, at this time, at this year. It was purely celebrating the ability to face the anxiety and the stress of via performance, and the almost insurmountable mental hurdle of, I'm going to go participate in combat with a human being, right? And again, everyone's ceiling is different. My ceiling was, I'm willing to do that. You don't have to fight a human being in a locked cage or in a ring to reach your ceiling, but you might have to step out there and do that comedy bit, or you might have to ask your boss for that promotion. You might have to finally talk to that girl or guy that you've been seeing, or that you've seen at the bar 3 times, since you've moved to that new city. It's a stupid example, but it makes sense, right? Yeah. I call it breaking the ice, right? Because when I talk to people about public speaking, I always explain that the first step to becoming a public speaker is not some kind of, your hand gestures or your facial expressions, your paralanguage, as we call it, or your pronunciation. It's going to the grocery store and talking to a stranger. That's the first step to becoming a public speaker. It's going to the bar, and if you see someone you like, talking to them. Why? Breaking the ice. Because what do you feel right before you step on stage, or for your case, stepping into a promotion board, or a Soldier of the Month board, or in my case, getting in the cage? That same anxiousness, anxiety, that, I can't do it, I don't want to, right? Or jumping out of a plane like we do on a monthly basis, right? Yeah. That right before you cross the threshold, you feel the most anxiety, the most fear. Right before you exit the plane, or before you say hello to the person you're attracted to, or before you step onto the podium in front of several hundred people, is when you feel that ultimate do it or don't.
Before you go into a job interview.
Exactly. That's a perfect example.
You can be trying to go be a fucking accountant at some firm and be shaking in your boots because you just did 4 years of college or something for this fucking degree, then doing a co-op or internship, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, here we go, I got a huge college debt, this job's supposed to be it, this is supposed to be the money maker. You're probably shaking your goddamn boots. Precisely.
That exact moment, that ultimate trepidation, as I would call it, is what you have to train yourself to face in your everyday life from every opportunity possible. right? And it doesn't have to be successful. In fact, I would say a failure in that regard is more valuable than a success, because if you are constantly successful in that, you're not going to be prepared for failure. Every comic bombs.
Yep.
Every comic bombs, right? Every fighter gets knocked out eventually, unless you're Khabib or John, right? Every single player out there is going to get turned down, right? Your ego is going to get ripped apart, right? And I'm not saying that you should also lose every time you do this, but what I'm saying is that a healthy understanding of the value of the experience and the ability to put yourself out there is all that you need to become whatever it is you're trying to do, because that's all it was with me for fighting. That's all it was the ability to say, I'm just going to do it, regardless of failure or success. I'm going to be willing to do it. And that right there, that mentality, that healthy, genuine, pure mentality of taking the moment as it comes and having a healthy expectation, but also being willing to push yourself beyond what you think is possible, is going to unlock, even if it doesn't work out in that field, your ability to say, well, I stepped into that arena. I'll go anywhere, right? That's how I feel. I didn't get to the UFC, but because of my experiences in the cage, I will do or say whatever is required of me at any point in time, because I've already faced some of the biggest fears I could ever face in my entire life.
Well, I want to circle back to something that you mentioned there too, and I feel like a kind of overall theme of that too is, as much as you take away from your failures and the losses and everything too, right? It's about the journey, right? I feel like for anybody pursuing anything, sports, fitness, job, life, career, marriage, whatever the hell it is, you need to enjoy the journey. You need to love it. You need to fucking thrive in it. Like that's like your bread and butter, because even if you go and fail, right? You fail, you still love doing the work to get there, right? So you fail, you realize, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? What should I change up? What should I not do, right? You learn from that, and then you restart the process and you're loving it, and then you finally get that win. Then that's where you move on. You break through the mold. Like, okay, I put my foot through the door. Now I'm in the building, right?
Right.
How do I get up to the next floor? And I think that's a huge thing. And I always call it stacking wins, right? Everybody, when they set goals, whether if they're a bodybuilder, fighter, if they're an intern at the company, they're looking at the pinnacle, right? And I feel like a lot of people do that. Like, I'm sure in your game that you came up in, guys look at, like you said, the Khabib, the John Jones, and the shit like that, right? Everybody looks at Tom Brady, LeBron James, like they look at the best of the best, but like you have to stack wins to get there, right?
Yes.
Because what does stacking wins do? Well, stacking wins, it breeds some confidence. Confidence breeds success. Success breeds more confidence. It's give and take. It's hand in hand. It's yin and yang, right? But you gotta love the journey and going in there. Something that you mentioned that I just did, the boards, right? Playing Jeopardy in our military profession, right? It's it's an anxious thing, right? As much as I bitch and I complain about like, oh, how much I gotta study and do this, and like I'm rushing through workouts to hit the books and things like that. And you know how I know? I at the same time, as much as I complain about it, I love it, and I love the success. I love the accolades that come with it and everything, and it gives me a sense of pride. It's a stack and a win. You know how I know that, like mentally, deep down, and even my subconscious brain, I know I love it. Last night, I fell asleep on FaceTime with my girlfriend, and she woke me up just to say goodnight. And she said, and I was incoherent, like I was so out of it, I was so tired, and I was yelling at her. I was sleeping, and I said, "Oh, leave me alone. I gotta study. I got the board. I gotta keep studying, right?" But that's not the first time I've heard that I've done something like that. Like, because your brain gets so centered in on something, and it's obsession, right? Like OCD, when it comes to your goals and things like that, it's an obsession, right? And it's supposed to be. It's okay, right? And you know that you're doing really well when you stack those wins and you put in that work and you obsess about something, and then you hit that big goal. You win that fight, you win that board, that competition, whatever it may be, and then you sit there. Right when you win, it hits you. You're like, God damn, I'm the man. I'm good, right? And then like it can be a few hours that goes by, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, what's next, right?
Exactly.
Like I'm sure like you probably had fights before where you like, you had a great win, it was awesome, you celebrated, and then maybe like the next week you're like, all right, what's next?
Oh, especially for me, because for those listening, in Michigan, we were unsanctioned as an amateur sport, and that means that it was very normal for someone in my profession as an amateur to have 30 to 40 fights. And an amateur in Michigan being unsanctioned, it was pro rules. You'd get kicked in the head.
40 fights.
Yes, as an amateur. I had 26, 27, 28, something like that, amateur fights before I turned professional. All professional rules. Kicks to the head on the feet, elbows and knees to the head were good. etc. Ground and pound striking, completely good. If you look at other states with their sanctioning bodies, guys have to wear shin pads. They have different kinds of rules to regulate ground and pound, which is no problem. I think it's good to have a safer sport. I'm not saying that it was back in my day, nothing like that. But the point is that we were going through it. I mean, we were in there with guys who were way beyond the low-level pro level, but it was normal to keep fighting and keep ascending and keep beating the best guys until eventually it was like, well, I have to go pro. It wasn't like I'm going to go pro when I think I'm good enough. It was, I've beaten everybody in the landscape. I guess I'll go pro now. And I wouldn't trade my experience for anything because I have over 3 hours of cage time. I had that before I turned pro.
Yeah.
A lot of guys take 3, 4, 5 amateur fights, knock out 4 or 5 guys. They have a bunch of skills. They're in a good camp. Good, boom, go pro. That's good and all. But it's also great to be able to say, I've been in there in countless third rounds of 3-round fights having to survive and figure it out. I've had countless fights that went the distance where I had to change the game plan, adapt, overcome, etc. But it just gets back to the main point that makes you relish the process, right? Because it's in your face all the time. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to aspire to be something better, if you're going to change the palette of your life from getting by to I'm going to go on a journey, right? Live life like a nerd gamer. What do I mean, right? The Elden Ring gamers of the world, the Dark Souls gamers of the world, the guys who are literal masochists because I'm going to try this boss fight, this mission 1,000 times, and I might die 999 of those times, but I'm going to figure this out regardless of how it goes, right? Because what is nerd gaming all about? Once you get the victory, did any of the failures matter at any point in time? No. Why? Because it's video gaming, right? No one's looking at it. The only reason we live life differently is because our mental status, right, and that we think people see the L's as this crippling, Loch Ness monster that's going to pull us in and never let us out. Who cares? Who cares? If you are a comic and you go and bomb 30 times, but you go become Shane Gillis, did those 30 times matter at all in the long run?
Shout out to Shane Gillis.
Yeah,
that man's on fire right now.
About to become the GOAT, right? That means that every time you bomb was only paying homage or only propelling you forward to whatever was going to come, right? The problem is that we as people take one loss and we use that to perpetuate the message for our whole life. Meaning if I get divorced one time, I'm a bad husband, right? If I lose one football game, I'm a bad quarterback. If I lose one fight, I'm a bad fighter. If I fail the board, like you're talking about, I'm a bad soldier. That is the human condition. That is how we work as people. That we are primed to take a negative experience and to hold on to that so much tighter than any of our wins, right? Because think about it. When you look at your life and your negative interactions, how many times do you remember being super pissed off at somebody or super argumentative with someone or someone you couldn't stand? All the time, right? You could right now, boom, I can name 10 people I fucking hate, right? Because why did you say this? I hate that guy.
Yeah.
How many times could you name just a genuine good interaction you had with somebody where it was just like, may I, please, thank you, something simple? You couldn't, right?
No.
You couldn't tell me that lady's name at the gas station. You couldn't tell me who that was because our brain is not wired to keep these small positive interactions going. What we have to do as Why Not You members, right, to establish the cult. Just kidding, it's not a cult, but you never know.
Yeah.
If I'm in charge, it'd be a cult. But what we have to do is log those interactions in our daily lives, whether it be the good workout or the mental barrier that we hurdled, and hold on to that with dear life, because that is the purity and the genuine nature of the journey that is lost so easily, right? It is so easily lost by one negative moment, by one setback, by one injury, by one getting fired from one job. Who cares? Again, Shane Gillis kicked off SNL because it's too edgy. For most people, that'd be the death of their career. You know who else got kicked off SNL? John Mulaney, who is extremely successful as a comedian, right? But the human condition is wired to take your biggest negative moment and let that map out the rest of your life. And what we have to do is literally the opposite and take the smallest successful moment and let that be the message and the fueler and the motivator for what we're trying to do with our future. You know what I mean?
And the caveat off of that, and then to what I'm going to say as military guys, there's a doctrine pushed out. I'm looking at the book right now on my bookshelves, this Small Unit Special Forces Tactics Handbook. It talks about growth and fixed mindset, which what can be related to what you're saying here, right? Because like people with a growth mindset, right? They look at setbacks as, as a teaching tool. They don't look at others and like envy them and be like, oh man, like fuck that guy. I want to, like fuck that dude. I hope he fails. Like blah blah blah. Because they're jealous. Because they don't have the tools to get to that point in life, right? They look at failure, and like you're saying, they look at failure and like, oh, well, it's done. I got to go do something new now. I got to settle for less. I got to be, what do you say? The Jerry from Rick and Morty,
exactly.
Right? Like, like you got to take that, oh, whatever. I'll just deal with this. Like, at least I'll be calm, cool, comfortable, or everything, right? But no, it eats you alive, right? But if that's having a fixed mindset, right? But if you have a growth mindset, right? You look at things, you look at obstacles as challenges, like something that you have to beat. You look at others who they're fucking killing it, like, and it doesn't have to be military. It can be any job. It can be sports, right? You're the backup quarterback. You're looking at the starting quarterback, right? And you're like, look at somebody like, I mean, Jesus Christ, look at Tom Brady behind Drew Bledsoe, right? Drew Bledsoe is a great quarterback. And Tom Brady's behind him. Like, how do I learn from that guy?
Right. That I was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, exactly.
7th round pick. I'm probably gonna do a few years on the bench, and then I'll go into real estate, or I'll use my name. I'll be able to say I was an NFL player and be a coach.
Yeah, exactly. How do I look at Drew Bledsoe? Same thing with everybody loves Tony Romo on commentary right now. Yeah. Tony Romo grew up under Drew. After Drew Bledsoe left the Patriots, he went to the Cowboys. Tony Romo, who's one of the most intellectual football minds that we see now on a public stage. He grew up behind Drew Bledsoe, and he was another guy like 5th round pick or something like that, right? And he was on the Cowboys roster for 2 years before he ever even saw the field. Yep. I think it was his 3rd or 4th year he actually got a start because he had a good preseason, right? You're in an office, right? You got a guy, your manager. How do I take that guy's job? You're in the military. How do I take my team leader, my squad leader's job, right? You look at those guys and you're not like, oh man, he's doing so good, I have no chance or whatever. No, you'd be like, I want to learn from that guy.
Right.
It's not that I'm specifically trying to take that guy's job, but I'm trying to get to that playing field. I'm trying to get on that level. Exactly, that level. I'm trying to get on that level.
And specifically, as cliche, what's the phrase? Be yourself. There's only one of you, right? As funny as that, stupid as that is, at the same time, there is probably something you can bring to the table that whatever that person you're aspiring to be cannot.
Exactly.
Right? So, for example, like as a fighter, I had no physical ability, right? For those listening, I did not start on any varsity teams. I was not a basketball player, football player, savant. Could not bench 185 pounds my senior year. Couldn't squat that either, right? There was zero part of me that looked like I could ever be competitive in any athletic sport. But what did I have that was different? I realized very early on that I had a very methodical and composed mind. And so even though I couldn't knock guys out because I was 17, 18, fighting grown men in the cage, I had this ability to be very composed and compartmentalize and process information at a very high level, which is very ironic because I had a 2.6 GPA in high school. I didn't learn that about myself until I fought, which is a greater message to say that if you don't step into whatever arena you want to be in, you're not going to learn these things about yourself anywhere else, right? And it does, again, for those listening, it doesn't have to be fighting. But whatever it is that you fear the most, that you think, oh, there's no way I could ever do that, that's probably the one thing that's going to teach you more about yourself than your entire life experience will, right? Oh, that is probably the one thing, whatever it may be, whether it's fucking skydiving, right? Yeah. Or something as simple as finally having a real conversation with your in-laws, right? Whatever it may be, that barrier is probably the last thing between you and your real self.
Yeah.
100%, right? And for me, it unlocked this world where it was, well, I'm not faster than this guy. I'm not stronger. I'm not more athletic in any way. But when the lights go down and everyone's watching and that guy's heart rate is at 180 beats per minute, mine's at about 120, right? Mine's at about 90. I'm chilling. For some odd reason, I have this ability to slow down, pick my shots, think about what I'm doing. I mean, I'm looking at the corner, like between rounds, I'd be like, so what are we having for, we going to talk about after this? You know what I mean? I'm literally in cruise mode, and I don't know why that is, right? But I had that ability. Yeah. And everyone has something they can bring to the table that is special, right? Look at people who have non-traditional traits that succeed in a traditional environment, right? We'll go back to comedy. Neil Brennan, right? Wrote for Dave Chappelle, very awkward guy on stage, very trepid, not a lot of traditional tropes and characteristics, but has some very funny and very insightful stand-up that did really well. And the main thing he said was, I always wrote for Chappelle, and I always was the man behind the curtain. But unless I stepped into the arena, I couldn't be happy with myself as a man, right? I could not accept myself unless I put myself out there, right? Because I've been the one writing the jokes.
Yeah.
I've been writing for Chappelle my whole career. I'm the one that made, not made Dave, but made the hits, right? I'm the one, putting up all the skits.
Yeah.
I got to go out there and do this for me, right? And so I think that you have to learn these things about yourself to understand that, just like you're saying, you're looking at that manager, that NCO, whoever it may be. You have something they don't.
Yeah.
You just don't know what it is yet.
You got to find out, and I think to find out too, like you have to build on your strengths, right? Everybody focuses on what they're bad at, right? I got to get better at this. I got to get better at this. Blah 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 blah. Right? Any realm, right? If it's an office job, sports, athletics, fighting, whatever it may be, right? In the gym, right? All right, I'm really bad at this. I need to work on it, right? And of course, you always got to work on your weaknesses. You always got to get better at things. Nobody's ever perfect. You got to keep grinding. But if you got a strength, right? Like you're saying, like your ability to keep cool and everything, right? You want to hone in on that, right? So I'm sure there's been fights for you where like you did get flustered. You were like, oh shit, that heart rate starts picking up, and then you catch yourself, you bring yourself back down, right? For me, like, man, I can look at anything in my life that, like, I looked at everybody else and I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, all right, what do I got, though? What do I got to bring to the table that I know these guys aren't going to, it started when I was younger, like when I was in high school, right? I didn't have some fabulous football career or anything like that in high school. But I remember my junior year, they moved me to defensive end. And I was like, oh, my God, what the fuck? I'm 5'8", 180 pounds. Like, these dudes are like 6'3" and like 250, right? But I was faster than them.
Right.
I was faster than them. That ball I would watch that ball snap, boom, I'm gone, right? And I was almost just as strong as these big bodied, 18-year-olds in, but I knew I was faster, right? That was the game changer right there.
Right.
Yeah, I got to get bigger. I get stronger. I can't do anything about my height. My dad's 6'3" and my mom's 5'1". That's not going to change. I got fucked, whatever, right? But I knew I could get, I knew I was faster. And I knew I was faster, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to get any bigger. Like, I'm not, like, there's no way I can get stronger to manhandle this 230-pound 18-year-old kid to put him on his ass to get to the running back, to the quarterback. But if I can get by him quick enough, if I can keep getting faster, there's no chance that, there's no chance that he can stop me, right? So the point I'm trying to make here, too, is that you got to work on those strengths. You got to run with them, right? Because, we're asking the big question here for the community, the movement, the brand, the company, the organization we're trying to build of all different athletes, all different types of people from every walks of life of why not you, right? You ask yourself the question first. Why not you? Why can't I be that professional fighter? Why can't I go in the basic training, become a soldier or something? Why can't I, go from an intern to like, owner of the company? Why can't I go from, a JV kid my entire high school career and then go walk on and become, a D1 college athlete, make it to the NBA, whatever it is, right? You ask yourself that question, right? And then you decide, all right, you know what? No, I can't be that guy. I can't be that guy who goes and accomplishes that, right? How are you going to do it, though?
Right. And so I think that for so many people listening, the best part about living in the day and age that we do is there is an avenue and a market for everyone and everything. That is the best part about living in 2023, right? Because if you look at most of the business model for marketing, for example, for sports, 80s, 90s, et cetera, there's a lot of parity, right? And there's still a lot of parity today. But the point is that in today's day and age, there is a YouTube channel, an Instagram page for everything. There is a way to be successful as the awkward guy who's hilarious because he has no idea what he's doing, and the super normal, cliche technical comic, to go back to that just kills it because he has the best timing, the best catchphrases, whatever it may be. Same thing in sports, right? Look at fighting. Look at the variation of guys that we have. Granted, the Dagestanians are dominating everybody. But the point is somebody like Wonder Boy can come over and really do some damage as a karate guy. And then you have guys like Bo Nickel, who just are wrestling phenoms, right? Then you have guys like Bilal Muhammad, who really isn't that good at any one thing. He's not a standout wrestler. He's not a devastating striker. He just put his mind to the craft. I've trained with Bilal multiple times. He is just so studious that there's no reason he can't succeed, right? And you have to look at yourself and say, what is my niche? Is there something about me that's quirky? Is there something about me that might not be funny to this guy, but the other guy laughs his ass off, right? This girl doesn't like this about me at all. She says this is my worst trait. But this other girl I met this is my favorite. This is her favorite part about me, right? Is there something about me that's so different it works, right? I mean, the most cliche example is Pete fucking Davidson, right? What it is about Pete Davidson that he can just bag every woman in town, right? When he's got butthole eyes. I don't understand it, right? Dude, we don't get it.
He looks like a Holocaust.
He looks like a raccoon.
Yeah.
But the point is that there's something about Pete. Why? Because he's charming, he's funny, and he's authentic.
He plays into it.
Well, he plays into it, exactly.
There's other, like, we don't want to talk about, like, social media, like, because, like, WNY, like, we are a social media brand. But, other social media brands that you're talking about, like guys who just say, like, get it. Like, look at somebody like Dave Portnoy. And, he started off selling fucking newspapers, man. And what is he? The only thing he does now, his main thing he does for Barstool now, besides like the gambling and everything, pizza reviews.
Amazing.
What does Dave Portnoy know about fucking pizzas?
No.
Dude, there's a clip.
Did Dave Portnoy go to culinary school? And he's not a Gordon Ramsay.
Michelin star chef?
Yeah, no, he's not.
There is literally a clip from Kanye West talking about Lady Gaga.
Yup.
And he goes, Lady Gaga is the creative director for Polaroid. What does she know about fucking cameras?
Right.
Nothing,
exactly.
Right? But she got the job because she's Lady fucking Gaga.
Because everyone starts somewhere.
But
everyone starts
you gotta
somewhere.
get interested in it, man. Like, you gotta do things that, like, you're passionate about. And and if you want to, like, make it for your life, like, obviously you got to make money. You got to make it a job, right? And there's nothing wrong with monetizing your hobbies. I mean, Jesus, for me, like, that's part of the whole reason why I do this, because I love, like I said earlier, like, I love podcasting. I love talking to people like yourself. I love, training others, showing them ropes of, like, fitness and things like that. So that's why I like to do this. And hey, why not make it into a legitimate business? Why not, like, bring other people into it? Like, the whole 100%. thing about being a WNY team member, it's not like, it's no contract shit. It's just, you promote us, we promote you. Like, that's it, right? But, like, other examples of guys in, like, social media things is, look at Friday beers. Look at those dudes who are in Friday beers. Bro, I'm no fighter. I'm like barely a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I would whoop those guys' ass. I would beat the shit out of those dudes. Like, when it comes to, like, masculinity, but they're funny.
They're awesome.
Like, they're funny. They're awesome. They're energetic. Look at the Nelk boys.
Yeah.
Their whole base is about being a jackass. Like, they're like the new Jackass.
Right.
Like, they're literally like the new. Look at guys from Jackass.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Knoxville. I mean, the last Jackass was hilarious.
But what is that? That's their niche, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everybody. This whole "Why not you" phrase came from. So those listening, Smith and I are in the same squad, right? I'm his boss technically, but I don't look at it that way. It's just a job, right? But I've been doing this a little bit longer, right? We have a soldier named Ari Hernandez who is probably $130 soaking wet, 5'8", 5'9".
Good day after, like, a night at, like, Texas Roadhouse or something.
There's nothing about him that is above average. Nothing, right? But for some reason, I believe that kid is going to do monumental things, whether it be in the military or outside of the military, right? Because he has one thing about him that is hard to find in the human condition, and that is a spirit that is unbreakable and genuine, right? The spirit that is willing to take on any challenge, right? The spirit that is willing to look at every situation with a smile, right? And that it sounds so Christmas story, cliche, bullshit, right? But that matters, right? Because for those of you listening, when was the last time you felt alive, right? I'm talking about movie character, not main character syndrome. This is not a philosophy class. But the last time you felt alive, right? We have the privilege of feeling alive a lot in the military because when you jump out of a plane and you might die, one person dies a year. It can still happen. It's still possible, and you still think you're going to.
Someone always gets a concussion.
Every time. Yo, I've had my fair share of bad jumps, but every time I hit the ground and I'm okay, I'm like, that was awesome. Thank God I'm alive.
Exactly.
Like, let's go. Like,
but you are never closer to life than when you are closest to death, right? We have we are spoiled in that. But for those listening, it might have been maybe your high school senior night was the last time you really felt like I'm alive. I'm really doing something. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, what happens? You go to college for 4 years, you black out the whole time, you take the safe job, and then you wake up at 40 like, what the hell happened to me, right? Mm-hmm. But it's because you haven't explored what makes you, right? As stupid as that sounds, right? The whole point is that the way to find that, and what I would say to that is train your strengths for the Call of Duty gamers on veteran, right? Which is the hardest difficulty, meaning I'm going to take what I'm good at and I'm going to press it as hard as I can and see the boundary, and train your weaknesses on easy mode.
Yeah.
Meaning I have a 5-meter target for what I'm worst at, right? Something so attainable. I suck at this, I'm bad at math. Maybe I can get basic algebra down. And if I can get basic algebra down, maybe I can progress to algebra 2, right? And then with a reasonable time frame, a year, 2 years, what have you, I can move on to trig, right? Or whatever comes next. I failed every class. I don't know, right? Or et cetera. If I have stage fright, my next goal is not to play at the Comedy Store, right? My next goal is to basically talk in a group of 2 or 3 people and be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Train your strengths, like I said, on the hardest difficulty setting. Meaning, I'm already good at this. Can I be better? Maybe, but let me do it. Let me do it to a point where I have no idea how to succeed. I have to literally work tirelessly to find it and train your weaknesses too. I already know the solution. I just have to do it. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
That makes perfect sense. What you're really like amplifying here is stacking wins. Like everybody, like I was saying earlier, we talked about it before. Everybody wants to be LeBron James, they want to be the CEO, everything like that. You have to stack wins. You need to work on your weaknesses in your own time. But then when it's showtime or it's something that you got to push through, ride with your strengths. Because your strengths are always going to get better.
Right.
Like if you got a niche for something, you're always going to get better at it. It's very rare that you actually get worse. People think like, oh, I'm so good at this. Like, now, granted, if it's some things like if you're a bow hunter, like if you're like, look at a guy like Cameron Haynes, right? Like the dude like shoots bows like all the time. Like he just never stops shooting bows. That's why he's so good at it. That's why he goes like hunting for like.
But he could still take 6 months off and be 99% better than the entire planet.
Well, that's because he's been doing it for so long, but it's a strength, right? But like for somebody like, if it was one of us, like, hey, we're going to take up bow hunting, right? And we did it for a year and we got like pretty good, but then we stopped for a year and we came back. We're like, oh shit. It sounds dumb, but like, I'd like to go snowboarding, right? If I didn't snowboard for like a few years and I go back and I'm on the ski lift, and I'm like, even like getting myself on the ski lift, I'm like, oh shit, how do I do this? And I'm on a black diamond, I'm like, oh shit, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Because it's not a strength, it's something you have to learn. But going back to like stacking wins is like, you need to get like those little wins, right? Because they breed success. They breed confidence. Confidence breeds success. Vice versa. It keeps going hand in hand. If one feeds the other. You need that in life in anything that you try to do. And it's a huge, huge necessity, And I think that people also, when they're stacking wins, like it gives them a tunnel vision. I think tunnel vision is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think tunnel vision is a great thing.
Because
right?
you're alive.
You're alive, and we're also sucked up in a world of distractions.
Yes,
right.
That is a really good point.
Even the people who are at the pinnacle of their careers, the top of the mountain, they are surrounded by distractions, and they create distractions for themselves. Like, look at somebody like Colby Covington, right? Just fought in the last UFC event of the year, right? He's a persona. He's out there, it's, Las Vegas or something. He's out there walking out to Kurt Angle's theme song,
Right.
bum, 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 bum. And then he's got Donald Trump, Kid Rock, Zach Brown, all these, red-blooded Americans there. Yeah, America and everything.
Versus
and
a guy like Leon, who is locked in.
Shush. Locked in.
And that's what
right?
he's doing.
So, that's exactly, you look at these guys, they create distractions for themselves. Look at somebody like, in other sports too. Look at the Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney, right? He's on social media all the time. He's trying his rap career and shit. Guy can't catch a football. Chiefs are already, in shambles because Taylor Swift's at every fucking game. And Patrick Mahomes looks like a jackass because for once in his, very illustrious career, him and his team are not the top dogs, right?
Right.
But regardless of making distractions for yourself, I feel like everybody's distracted by everything else.
Right? All the time.
And sometimes people are distracted by like stupid shit. Like
it's impossible not to be.
Shit.
It's impossible not to be. I think I actually think distraction is more comfortable than focus, right? By far. It's more comfortable than focus. Yeah. Would you rather study for 6 hours or be distracted for 5 and then say, oh, well, I need to study, right? I mean, we've all been college students here, for most of us listening. It's more comfortable to say, I'll do it later and do nothing productive with your time. I would argue if you had to study, even if you're going to be distracted by something that is intellectually provoking, right? Be distracted by something that is mentally stimulating. We don't do that. That is not the human condition.
No,
right?
it's not. And you know what else too? Dude, I'll come home from work some days, right? I'm like, all right, back home, get situated. All right, I got to go to the gym, right? But I pull up my phone first, and I'm like, oh, I'll just take a minute. I just worked all day. Pull up my phone. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, whatever the hell it is. And then all of a sudden, I'm scrolling through. I'm not realizing time's going by.
Nope.
I'm feeling good. I'm watching funny stuff. Oh, hey, send this to a buddy. And then all of a sudden, it stops it every time. You get the videos where there's like a clip of something, and then there's like Subway Surfers underneath.
Yep.
And then I'm like, uh-oh. Like, I've been distracted.
I've gone too far.
I've gone too
far. The rabbit hole has led me to having to be simultaneously stimulated by some other video and listening. It is amazing that our attention span is so bad. We have to watch two things at the same time, split by a screen, to pay attention for 30 seconds. This is not a fucking YouTube long form essay.
No,
this is a YouTube short. Yeah. Or an Instagram reel or a TikTok.
It's a Tim Robinson. It's a Tim Robinson skit,
right? With a dude below dressed like Ronald McDonald jumping off a roof because I can't pay attention long enough. It's crazy.
But regardless of that silly little note, like what you're saying is like I totally agree. Like everybody would rather be more comfortable and distracted by something.
Absolutely, we distract ourselves for our whole life. Yeah. You know what we distract ourselves with? What kind of countertop should I get? What kind of fence should I build around the house?
Yeah.
How's my neighbor doing? With does he have the zero turn mower? Well, I should probably get one of those. And then you turn 60 and you realize that nothing in your life had any fucking meaning.
Well, distraction, I think, at least in America, distraction goes into consumerism.
100%. Consumerism. Why do we shop? Because we want to be comfortable. We just want to forget about what's happening in our life. I had a bad day at work. Well, I bought a cool Versace belt. Well, I don't even know if they make belts because I've never owned a thing of Versace in my life because I don't have fucking $6,000. Well, it's probably not even enough money. I don't have tens of thousands of dollars in my fucking savings account to pay for that, right? But the point is that comfort is a slow death, right? And the greater point is that everything that we are talking about, everything that is quintessential to what we are saying is what makes us alive. It's what makes you and I alive. And it doesn't matter if we fucking fail at every single one of these attempts. The attempt itself is what brings us life, right? But it is ironic that the idea of having life and being alive is more terrifying than the slow death of comfort. It's crazy to think about that concept, that I would rather take a slow death where I am in a state of slumber than to be alive, because being alive has the connotation of having to deal with life itself, right? If I am alive, if I am examining my life as Plato and Socrates, or both, depending on your theory, would talk about, meaning that the unexamined life is not worth living, meaning that the moment I examine, right, the moment I decide to weigh myself as a man, as a woman, as a husband, as a father, as a wife, as a mother, all of a sudden brings about so much more responsibility and expectation than if I just continue to distract myself. Oh, well, I'm doing good enough. Yeah. I'm doing okay. It is like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, if you've ever seen it. For those listening, that is the movie about Miles Teller as a drummer who gets put into the hands of the most tyrannical and terrifying leader you'll ever meet, where he says the worst two words in the English language are "good job." Do I think that's true? Maybe not. But what he's getting at is we will tell ourselves I'm doing good enough onto our deathbed, and the reality is you were never close.
Well, yeah, I mean, and complacency. A lot of that has to do with complacency, right? Like you can be comfortable being complacent if you keep telling yourself, "Oh, I did good.
Yeah,
I did a good job." Like, that's the whole thing. I'm like, "Oh, I got third place. I got second place. Oh, I didn't get this job that I wanted, but at least I got like a little raise."
Yeah,
like that's good enough. We're content. We're happy. Everything's good. Fuck that. That's not what we're about, and that's not what anybody should be about, because like you said, like if you don't like put your foot in the door, you don't work on your strengths, you don't work on your weaknesses in your own time in the downtime, and you don't you don't resist that urge to be like, oh, I just want to sit down. I just want to chill. I just want to, maybe I won't do this. Maybe I won't pick up this fight. Maybe I'll just keep training a little bit. Maybe I won't, study for this. Like, I feel like I know enough from just the classes themselves. Like, you'll always be stuck in that comfort zone, and it will kill you. It will kill you in the end.
For those listening, the most important hours of your waking life are from 5 to 9 p.m. from Monday to Friday. Why is that? Because most of us don't have the dream job yet. right? Most of us don't have the luxury life yet.
Yeah.
But from 5 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, post-work, is the most important section of your life that will ever take place. Because you can it's one of those do what thou wilt situations where it's I put those 4 hours on autopilot and I fall asleep watching some stupid reel and I wake up and I do it again, or I go to the gym, or I put in the extra hours, or I apply for that college class or that master's degree class, because master's classes typically take place off the work schedule, or I go visit that therapist because I am down bad and I'm actually going to put some work into getting better at my life.
Yeah.
5 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, are the most, and that's 5 times 4, that's 20 hours. Those 20 hours are going to either make or break your life until you get to a point where you have a better life or a worse life, depending on what you do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you spend those hours on autopilot, nothing in your life will ever change. And you will turn 65, 70, 75, and you'll look back and say, well, I guess I did okay, versus I really made something for myself. You know what I mean? My mother, the sweet Tarwin Rouse, is an auditor for my church, and she does not get paid to do it. You know how stressful it is to audit a church? To take the finance? No one in the church wants, that is the least sexy church job in the world.
I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even know that there was auditors.
Absolutely. Why? Because there's money going to the pastor, there's money coming from the main donors, right? Who are typically, if you're a small church, it's like 4 or 5 white people that are really rich, right? That really support your little mom and pop spot. That's what it is, right? Somebody has to get all that to the government to say, here's what we make, here's what goes out, right? Because everyone thinks churches don't pay taxes. There are still fees to be paid, right? There is still work to be done, right? And my mom is the one who said, well, I have an education. I'm the one, I'll do this, right? Does she do it because it's fun? No. Is it because she believes that is her part of her purpose and it's what makes her feel alive and she is doing something that fulfills her? She is doing her part as a human being? Yes. And I would argue that while that might not be enjoyable, it is something that is meaningful. It is something she can look back on and say, I did something that fucking mattered. Ironic that I dropped the F-bomb after talking about a church subject. Forgive me.
It gives purpose.
Exactly. And that's all this thing is about. Because here's the thing. If you're the UFC champion, but you don't feel you have purpose, you fail, right? If you're the janitor and you do have purpose, you've succeeded. Now, that's based on your ceiling and your floor, right? But we're all trying to find that. And the point is that 99% of us don't feel like we have a purpose, right? Well, again, we're blessed. We are military leaders. We are in charge of the lives, literally the lives, of a bunch of young men who want to be something. That's pretty damn cool if you ask me. But for most listeners, right, who go to the gym on their off time and they want to be a fitness athlete or they want to be this, that, and a third, right, it's hard to find purpose. But unless you get away from the distractions and the saturation that we've been talking about, you're not going to find purpose in your journey, right? Because if all you focus on is the next guy, the next reel, the next video, the next Sam Sulek, if you will, legend, right? If all you look at are those people, you're going to feel like a failure every day of your life. Reality check, your ceiling, if you're listening, is probably not Sam Sulek. Your ceiling might be a 2-pack. But guess what? If your 2-pack came from 280 pounds, you're the fucking man, right? You're the man. That's awesome. That's incredible. But social media will never tell you that, right? Your peers will never tell you that.
Glorification.
The glorification, the instant gratification of I pumped 1,000 milligrams of tren and I'm a fucking superhuman. I'm not saying that's Sam. I'm just saying that that is what the internet is looking for, right? It's the same example. I might be, maybe I'm Josh Emmett, but I want to be Sean O'Malley. Maybe you're not cut out to be Sean O'Malley, dude. Maybe you're not cut out to be Kevin Hart. Maybe you're not cut out to be that guy. But if you can sniff 90% of what you were supposed to be, you're a damn winner, right? Yeah. The point is that we're all operating at 20, 30% because we're looking at the 1 percentile and we're saying, well, I can't be that, so I'm going to stop trying, right? And that is where, like you're saying, I can't be the best of the best, so I'm just going to go completely opposite, mm-hmm. right? And go, well, if I can't be the best of the best, I'll be comfortable until I die. That's not the answer,
no,
right? But that's the human condition. The human condition is I meet this first set of adversity, and now I'm like, nope. I'm going to go the opposite way and run from that. That's it's like I tell people in fighting, right? When you look at a street fight, what do people do in a street fight? They lean way back. They throw big looping punches because their brain is pushing them to the extreme of run away from the punch as much as you can and then throw the punch as hard as you can throw it. Our brain operates on extremes, right? The only way to rewire the fabric of the neurons, I'm not a scientist, but basically you can literally reprogram your brain by changing your instincts via repetition, right? And as much as it's repetition in the gym, repetition in drilling, practicing, training, studying, you can do that with your emotional state. But how do you do that? You don't watch the Instagram reel of the girl with a BBL and giant boobs and butt that, well, I'll never have somebody like that. You don't want that, stupid. You know what I mean? That's probably not what you want, you moron. You do that by stop watching Bradley Martin and start watching somebody who's built like you that got a little better, right? Or stop watching entirely if it's bad for you, right? The biggest thing we can do as humans is to stop working off what we feel and ask, why do I feel what I feel? Yeah. That is the game changer. Why do I feel so depressed? Because I'm looking at Tiger Woods and I just started golfing. Well, duh, you feel shitty, right? Yeah. I'm looking at Ronnie Coleman. I can't bench press 225 pounds. Okay, big fucking deal.
You should probably stop watching Ronnie Coleman.
Probably start watching Ronnie Coleman, right? You should probably start focusing on your damn craft. Start focusing on you.
Listen when he says lightweight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or just listen up.
But that mentality.
Yeah,
100%. No, but no, I 100% agree and understand that everything that you're saying, and I think that it's like. I think it's scary. Honestly, I think it's scary, man, because like what you're saying, like it makes perfect sense. And if anybody who disagrees, like well, you're wrong. And because I couldn't maybe articulate it the way that you could, but I would, convey it in a way where messages across. Like you got to do something with your own life, and just telling yourself, good enough. Oh, good enough. Good for me. Give yourself a pat on the back. The only person who needs a pat on his back is Tom Brady because that man's the fucking greatest football player, ever. Yeah. But right? Like, are you the greatest ever at something? No. And this is the thing about life though, right? And this is why, when you talk about you gotta love the journey. You gotta love the journey to go accomplish things, right? You don't need to be the best ever. If that's what you want to do, yeah. Live your whole life and work your whole life trying to get to that point. And if you don't get it, that's okay. Because if you love all the processes, getting up to that point, all the relationships that you made, all the experiences that you had, all the places you've been to, and you learn to grow from that and love that and take from that and change yourself and better yourself from all of that. Dude, like you're saying, dude, you're on a winning path. Yeah. You're a winner. You're a winner. My dad always told me that success, right? Everybody's looking for success. Success isn't measured in the size of your house, how much money's in your wallet, how nice are your shoes, your car, or anything like that. Success is measured by the enjoyance and the love that you get from your experiences, the people you meet, and the places you've been. Right?
Exactly. And those are going to be richer when you push yourself.
Exactly.
Because if you surround yourself with people that are also in misery and saying, well, I'm good enough, I'm going to stop here, right? You might have some good relationships. You still meet great people that just suck. Yeah, that's just the reality of life. We all know people that suck, but they're just really entertaining. Yeah. That's funny. That's hilarious. There's a million Peter Griffins in the world, right? And they're pretty funny. They're good people. It's hilarious. And there is that guy at work that's so miserable, he's really funny. There's also that guy, I'll never forget this. When I was 16 years old, I worked at Tom's Food Center, Hazlet, Michigan. Shout out to the homies. I don't even know if they're still open. I hope they are. And there was a dude there named Greg. I only remember that because that's my biological father's name, rest in peace, who was 60-something years old, and he was bagging groceries. And I was like, this guy must have really messed up, right? This guy must have really ruined his life to be a bagger at 60-something years old. And I walk up to him, and I'm like, hey, Greg, how you doing? And this is so simple and so stupid, but it sticks forever. He goes, I'm good, man. I gave up bad a long time ago. And I was like, holy shit. My existential brain, it exploded. So it's this dude that's 60-something years old, bagging groceries, said, I gave up bad forever ago. I'm great. And now, is that an excuse for everybody to go bag groceries and settle right there? No, of course not, right? But the point is that wherever you are, perspective is reality. And if this is the best you can do right now, it's the best you can do. Stop there, right? It's like you're stupid ass. I tell you all the time, you studied enough. You've done your work. Let it rest. Let's go do it. And if you fall on your face, you put the work in, you step into the arena, that's sick. And I'm proud of you for doing that. And that's that. You know what I mean? And so that right there, that difference between that humility and saying, I did everything I could, that is good enough, versus I didn't turn out to be Conor McGregor, I didn't turn out to be Bradley Martin, I didn't turn out to be Sam Solik, is the difference between happiness and failure. Because guess what? There's a lot of people in Sam or John Jones's position who aren't happy. A lot of people. There's a lot of people who are at the top of the mountain who didn't find success. The Bible calls it chasing the wind, right? Meaning that there is no end. And that is the hard balance between what we're talking about is having tunnel vision and focusing on the next goal over and over and over again, but also constantly looking back and saying, this is where I came from, and it's a damn pleasure to be here. You have to have both, right? That's why my college professor, Paul Patton, I'll never forget, he always said there are three things you need to be able to live at all times. Well, if that recorded, then it did. Hey, you know what? We're popular. We got calls coming in and out, right? We got people on call ready to go. We're not going to do that first episode.
We're going to take in our first caller.
We're not taking.
You guys suck. Oh well.
We're not taking. We're not taking Dylan, our buddy Dylan Kimbrell in.
No, that guy sucks. But anyway,
we're keep rolling. That's not getting cut out.
We're gonna keep it.
We're keeping it. That's all. That's the authenticism we're talking about. All right.
But anyway, Professor Paul always said you should be able to ask yourself and answer three questions in your life. Where have I been? Where am I? And where am I going? Right? Because where am I going should be the next goal.
You're talking about. Yeah.
Yep. Where have I been should be, it is crazy I got here from there.
Yep.
And where am I should be a healthy mix of both. And if you can answer all three things, you can simultaneously have that tunnel vision and that I'm going to keep progressing and keep succeeding and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But also have that step back that says, well, damn, dude, I wasn't anything before this. I can't believe I'm here. This is crazy. And then that middle ground of, well, let's take these two ideas, let's put them together, and let's be in a healthy state of, I'm thankful to be here, but there's more to do. That's all it's about.
Yeah. Why not you? So with this topic of conversation that is very spot on to what we're looking for, I want to ask you this, right? So, listeners, they're listening to this, January 1st, 2024, right? 2024, you look back at, 2014. I look back at 2014, I think it was like 6 years ago.
Right.
It's 10, right? You're a little bit older than me. I'm sure you probably feel the same way about a lot of different years. But regardless of that, right, we talk about things that are distractions, right? Social media, things like that. How, good, hard hitting, authentic sports become more of spectacles in that aspect, right? We're moving into 2024, technology, social media, everything in that realm has just been skyrocketing. The growth and the infection rate of it, the negative infection rate that it has been growing, tremendously over the course of, I would honestly say it's 2024. I would honestly say the past 10 years, right? I feel like Instagram was, slow started and around 2014, 2015, or whenever the fuck Harambe died, boom, you know what I mean? No, I'm serious. Yeah, 2016, that 2014, 2016, realm, that's when shit, I really feel started, boom.
Yeah.
I grew up. So going into 2024, right? How do you see the outcome of social media, the outcome of sports and fitness and the spectacles that they're becoming? UFC's now combined with WWE, the NFL, professional football. You can't even play football anymore.
Yeah.
There's the guys are getting flagged for stupid shit. The fitness industry, Jesus Christ, everybody. We could so easily well become a culprit of the industry in the sense of being just like everybody else, just the cool logo, the cool slogan, the hot chicks in your gear and things like that. The guys are roided out of their minds. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right?
100%.
Everybody falls into the trap to make a buck, to get their name out there and everything.
We're
looking for authentic names. My question is, overall, how do you see in the next year, because we're almost, it's 2024. We're almost halfway. We're a year away from the halfway point of the 20s, the 2020s, our roaring 20s. We're almost halfway through already. How do you see everything portraying out in the aspect of things that we're talking about, the aspects of these industries that, you and I and Jake, we both love and we're entertained by and we pursue in our own rights? How do you see it all unfolding as we go, especially because the world's always changing. America's a powerhouse. We're not getting political, but we're coming up on an election year. We all know what happened, the crazy shit that happened in our last election year. How do you, see all of that, unfolding?
If you're going to clip anything for your YouTube short, I'll clip this. And that is that the great philosopher Jean Pascal once said that all of man's problems stem from his inability to sit in his own room quietly. What does that mean, right? That means that when I unplug the phone, when I turn off the TV, and I sit with my own thoughts, am I able to sit in peace? If I am not, that is where all of my problems come from. That is where all of my inability to succeed, that is where everything this podcast is trying to do fails, because I am not able to reason or be a liaison to my true self, right? Meaning that when everything comes to zero, am I able to sit in that space, accept who I am, accept the thoughts that I have, and move forward? Why can I not do that? Because I am so overstimulated by what I am inheriting from the medium that I'm choosing to inherit it from, right? As humans, we only speak at this point in time in high contrast language, meaning that it's me versus you. You like Biden, I like Trump. Fuck you, fuck me. All right, debate, end. That is the only way human beings speak in this point in time. Obviously, there are exceptions, and here's the thing. But here's the thing. If every news outlet was civil discourse between two parties who talked in a very convenient to listen to manner, and we discussed our problems and we came to a nice agreement, would anybody watch? No. Nobody would watch. Nobody would watch some peaceful conversation about real policies and real issues, where I gave you concessions saying, I understand where you're coming from, you understand where I'm coming from. Nobody would watch that. Why? Because the human brain wants to be part of a team. It wants to be part of, this is the team I play for. Hoorah, right? Yeah. No Marine, no more stupid fucking military Marine pun intended, right? It's all about, I want to be part of this group because I'm more comfortable in a group than I am solo. And I want to be part of these guys because they're more powerful than these guys, or I agree with what these guys are saying, regardless if I even study what they're really about. But I just want to be part of something, right? And that's not all bad because humans are communal by nature. We need community to exist and to thrive. However, we abuse that via the social media medium because we create community via artificial insemination, right? We artificially bring people in and birth people into a group because we say, if you're down with this, this, and this, you're down with us. Without any backstory or any explanation or any real information, right? It's similar with Trump, and I'm not the biggest Trump hater or fan, but a lot of people thought Trump would be super pro-gun, right? Because he's Trump. He wasn't by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
he was not pro-gun.
Not at all.
But people just assumed, right? Because I'm Trump, I'm gonna. And so that's how the human brain works. And what I'm getting at is that as 2024 unfolds, if you, the listener, can listen to anything, it's that you need to be able to critically think in the space of your own mind by yourself. Because that space is where you improve, right? That space is where you ignore the Instagram reel, not just of that lifter who's 1,000 times stronger than you, but also of that political mind who 1,000 people back, who you choose to not actually look up and study, and you say, well, I'm with them, right? You need to be able to break away from the masses and make a critical decision on what you want out of life, because there are 1,000, for example, if you are a content creator on YouTube or Twitch, etc., you're going to look at gamers and you're going to look at people who are very, very successful, and you're going to say, how can I be that? But there's probably like thousands of people who have 1,000 views or less on YouTube who are really, really good. They're just not heard, right? Because that mass is not attributing to what they're saying because they're not willing to play the game. Now, am I saying that you don't have to play the game sometimes? Of course not. What I am saying is that if you want to have peace in your life and if you want to make progress, it's going to be in your own place, in your own mind. It's not going to be with the group, man. It's not going to be with the Republicans, the Democrats, the test bros, or the all natty guys. It's not going to be with whoever you think is pushing it. It's going to be with you.
Yeah.
And we're not willing to do that. We're not willing to set that time aside and do that. Like if you as a grown man or woman are not willing to set aside 30 minutes of your time to be in silence and be alone and say, who am I? Where am I going? Am I happy with this? With no self-help bullshit, right? No, I love Jordan Peterson, but no Jordan Peterson book, right? No Instagram reel, right? No TikToker telling you you're doing okay. Why don't you look at you, right? Why not me? Well, do you know who you are? I bet you don't, because who you think you are is rooted in the social, what you are consuming, not in what you are looking at in the mirror, and that's the difference, right? So what I would say is that as 2024 unfolds, the mob mentality is only going to grow, man. It's not going away. Is it for better or worse? I'm not here to say that. I'm not a politician, man. I'm not a philanthropist. I'm not a socialite. I am not a philosophy extraordinaire. But what I am going to tell you is the mob mentality and the desire to be a part of the team is not going to go away. It's only going to get worse.
No, of course it's not. Of course it's not. I mean, you can look at it in many different aspects of life, but like you're saying, how like everybody wants to be part of a team, everybody wants to pick a side, everybody wants that entertainment, that like that hard hitting, like extreme stuff that hits you hard. Whether
it's a Michael Bay world.
Well, yeah, exactly, right. Whether if it's in a political debate, whether if it's on a basketball court, ice hockey rink, football field, whatever it may be, whether if it's in the gym, whether if it's like that guy you always see who's like he's around your size or whatever. You're trying to see if he's lifted more than you or something like that, right? Something as immature as that, right? I think as we as Americans, people in general, we love extremism. As much as people fight against it, you still love it.
That word has a negative connotation, but it is the fabric of our being.
We love extremism, right? Because look, you want to talk in political sense, everybody looks at Democrats, right? And they think Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or something like that. And then it's all of a sudden, right? Vice versa. You think of any, Republican, right? And then all of a sudden they're related to Trump and you're like, right? You're like, no, fuck that. I'm picking this other team. You look at, Jesus, right? The debates in sports in general, right? Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan, right? Oh, fuck you. Go
high contrast language.
Exactly, right? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, he's the best ever. Who, all that type of stuff.
There's people that would crucify you for saying what you just said right there, putting Aaron Rodgers in that conversation.
Exactly.
Just because they're so programmed to say, no, it's Brady.
They're like, you didn't say Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Like you didn't say Drew Brees. You didn't say, exactly. That's we love extremism, man. We love picking teams, right?
It's what sells tickets.
Exactly, right? And the problem is that you have so many guys with so many big platforms who are so gifted, and they pick these sides. We talked about Colby Covington earlier. Colby Covington, he might play a character. Maybe he's a general dude in real life. I don't know. I never fucking met the guy. But like so gifted, right? So many people idolize him, not for his character, but like for his fight form. There's so many fighters like that, right? They get so extreme. I mean, and like especially when you put culture in the mix, right?
Oh yeah.
You dial it back a couple of years back. Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor, Ireland versus Brazil.
Yeah.
It was extreme. It was extreme what they were saying.
Chael Sonnen, excuse me, his life was in danger in Brazil.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. Because why? Brazilians take fighting more seriously. I mean, soccer probably trumps it, I would assume.
Yeah.
I've never been to Brazil. I'm not going to pretend I know the culture. But fighting to Brazilians is life, man.
Yeah.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There's a reason why it's called that, right? And what Chael Sonnen did to create that controversy and create that rivalry put his life in danger, right, for the sake of the spectacle. Now, granted, he did a fantastic job. It was must-see TV.
Yeah.
But that goes right to what you're saying.
But, and also, too, like, we love extremism. We love chaos, right? You see, we want to talk about politics. You see a guy like Trump or this, this Kennedy cat get on stage and they start talking. It's chaos. They're just bullying people. Like Shane Gillis said, he just, goes out there and bullies. It's entertaining. It's chaos, and whether if it's a positive or negative chaos in your perspective, like whether that just, you love how chaotic it is because it makes you so mad, or you're just, willing to get behind them like, hell yeah. You know, we love chaos, right? The Connor and Jose thing,
Yeah.
chaos. It's chaos. So what side are we going to pick, right? You can dial it back to absolutely anything. We love chaos. The problem is everybody's looking to get into some chaos, right? To emulate themselves from that source of chaos, right?
Right.
It can go to those type of sports. You can go to bodybuilding. You can go to the Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler fans back in the
Right.
day. You know, you can orient it to anything, but the problem is nobody actually wants to deal with real chaos.
No,
that's not real
exactly.
chaos. Real
No.
chaos is the chaos of you're working a 9 to 5. Hell, fuck that. You're not working a 9 to 5. You're working overtime, right? You're working 10, 12 hours a day. You still got to find out when you're going to make time for the gym, when you're going to make time to hit the books, when you're going to make time to work on that side project. Are you going to wake up at 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30 in the morning and do it before you have to go to work? Or are you going to come home after a long days of work and hit it then too, till you're up till 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
That's real chaos, right? Because that shit actually matters.
That's chaos that isn't sexy.
It's not sexy. It's non-sexy.
not, yeah.
It's non-sexy chaos, but guess what? It's the chaos that actually fucking matters.
It's the chaos of 5 to 9 p.m. from Monday to Friday.
Because guess what? Your political vote, your like, your subscribe, your
It doesn't mean shit.
exactly, right? But for your own life, for your own sake, for your own happiness, for your own true comfort, not the comfort you think is comfort, but your own true comfort of being the person you want to be, being the person that you want to become, doing the journey, working towards that goal that you want to pursue, right? You need to be able to endure that chaos and also love that chaos too, right?
And what does the chaos, the perpetuated chaos you're talking about that makes the mainstream media, that rules our lives, what does that encourage? It encourages reactive thinking.
Yeah.
Meaning that I'm not proactively looking at the medium that I'm observing and saying, okay, here's what this person's saying, here's what this person's saying, here's my take, here's what I should be considering. It's just saying stimulus response, right? If we live our life on stimulus response, what is our stimulus going to be half the time? I'm tired. Stimulus says I'm tired. Response, go to bed. Or watch YouTube, then go to bed. Stimulus, I had a long day. I'm really frustrated. I'm going to drink. Okay. Response, I'm going to drink, right?
Yeah.
Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. It's the easiest path for the brain to take. The space between stimulus and response is the space that defines your life.
Yeah.
That is the space. And if you don't have a separation between the two, you are not going to succeed, right? Because when you step into that arena, whether it be like fighting is the easiest example, is stimulus, I'm afraid, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I don't know what's happening. Response, I fold.
Yeah.
Right? Versus stimulus, he's throwing these punches, he's putting a lot of output out right now, he is bringing the heat, he's throwing everything but the kitchen sink at me, right?
Yeah.
Space, the space between saying, wait a minute, this guy's going to gas out.
Yeah.
I just need to hold what I got. I need to block punch. I need to move my feet. I need to move around the cage. I need to be agile, give them different looks, feint, fake. I might lose this first round. Okay, that's fine. I got 5 more, whatever it is to work with, right? That's the space between stimulus and response. That is the processing phase. Everything social media wants you to do is to eliminate the processing phase, right? Because, for example, Twitter is porn right now. If anybody who is still on X, Elon, you need to do something about this. Twitter, Twitch, it's soft porn, man. Or in Twitter's case, real porn. All it is, I mean, no offense to, there are a lot of Twitch streamers that are women who are doing a good job. Gingy Tarkov is a good example. Like girls who can game. There's a lot of them who are literally just blurring. There is literally going on, what's happening right now is Twitch streamers are censoring their nipples and their genitals, and that's it. They're literally just putting up bars, censoring them, and just talking, right? If you're arguing with me, that's art. That's body art. Go fuck yourself. All right?
Yeah.
That's not. That's a bunch of horny young men who are watching that and giving you a lot of money to be half naked, right? The point that I'm making is
it's insane,
right? That is the definition of stimulus and response. Stimulus, sexual, response, $10, $20, $30, $40. Donation, right? You're falling into a trap, right? But the same thing goes for politics, right? Stimulus, Trump, or whoever, bullying this person. Hell yeah, I'm on board, MAGA. Response, I'm part of the team. Now, does that mean I'm not a Republican or that I think you shouldn't support it? No. But the point is that the ability to space out how I feel in the heat of the moment versus what my decision is should be a mile apart.
Yeah.
They should be a mile apart with
Yeah.
lots of critical thinking intertwined between the two. But when you only have, I mean, look at political debates, for example. When Abraham Lincoln was politically debating, he had 8 hours to talk about what he was going to talk about. I believe it was 8 hours. I might be wrong, but it was hours to talk about what he was going to talk about. There would be an intermission, a short lunch, and then the other candidate would have hours to talk about their point. At the end of the day, the people would come together and decide upon that, meaning that your attention span had to be hours long with a short break, think about what you just heard, and then listen to somebody else for hours at a time. Now, what is it? 30 seconds to a minute to answer a political question, moderator cuts in, advertisement, boom, next question. Meaning that how much can you think about a 30-second to 1 minute stimulus? Not much,
No,
right?
not at all.
This guy said something controversial, hell yeah, I'm on board. Or hell no, I hate that,
Yeah.
right? Boom, done, sealed, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm either with that guy or I'm against that guy.
Yeah.
Imagine if we treated people like that.
Yeah.
Imagine if we treated people in 30-second to 1 minute increments on our relationship, right? Because between you and I are some of the best of friends. We've had times where we don't see eye to eye. If I treated every single interaction 30 seconds to 1 minute apart, our whole relationship would be up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. I hate you. You know, you're my boy. I hate you. You're my boy. It doesn't make sense.
No.
We are living life in a prism, right? On a plateau that is not feasible to our everyday relationships or to our everyday thoughts or to how we treat ourselves, right? Because look at your interactions, my interactions every day. We have massive successes and massive failures. Mm-hmm. But if we treated every one of those successes and failures on the same medium we view social media, everything would be either I'm the best of the best or I'm the worst of the worst, right? And that's how they keep you going. Because social media either tells you you're amazing or you suck, and it pulls you back and forth, back and forth. It drowns you in a pit of sadness, and it pulls you up to the top of the top. And it does the same thing over and over again. It does that through sexuality. It does that through false empathy, meaning that, oh, it's okay to be mediocre, right? It's okay to suck, right? How many memes say, well, I ate that 4th piece of pizza, oh well. That's what social media is, right? It drowns you in a false sense of either security or lack of masculinity or femininity or a lack of comparison or a false sense of mediocrity because you're drowning in that. Because there's two people, right? There's the guy that's working his butt off and he's looking at Zac Efron as an actor and saying, well, I'll never be that handsome or that ripped. I suck. Mm-hmm. Or there's the fat slob that's viewing every meme that says, well, you know, oops, I ate a pint of ice cream, oh well, and there's that false mental health thing that says, well, you know, you're still okay. They're both wrong, right? But it's the inability to dissect the extremes and hang out in the middle that is going to keep you held back for the rest of your life.
And I think when you talk about the extremes, right, people look at the extremes and they're like, oh, I can't reach that, right? But sometimes I feel like because of all that influence, that mental programming that we get from the things that we see, I think that we misconstrued sometimes what extreme is.
Yeah.
And compared to what is very well possible, it's just the simple fact that you have to go do it, right?
100%.
For example for that, and I can relate to it in my own life. I've done it a lot, but it's going to sound cliche to the or corny to the military listeners out there, right? But one thing I always loved was Jocko Willink in the watch posts.
Yeah.
The 3:30, 4:30 in the morning watch posts, right? Because there's a guy who retired Navy SEAL commander, right? Which people I don't really think realize how big of a position that is.
Oh yeah.
Right? Making millions of dollars off of podcast, apparel, books, you know, and supplements now, right? But he's still doing the same old thing of waking up at 3:30 or 4:30 in the morning. And then everybody looks, but like the average person looks at that and they think, oh, well, it's because he was a Navy SEAL, you know, he was in the military. No. There's plenty of people. Before I joined the military, I was doing the same thing. I knew I had a long day of work. It started really early in the morning. I hated coming home from work and having to go to the gym. I was tired. I was worn out. It was already 5, 6 o'clock at night, right? I had other things to do, other side projects to work on with my old company. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wake up at 3:30 every morning. I'm going to go to the gym. I'll get an hour and a half into a workout. and I'm gonna go balls to the wall. I'm gonna kill it, and then I'm gonna go to work all day. I did that for about 2 years straight, and I was 18, 19 years old, right? So the point of that is that people look at that extreme, right? Like I said earlier, of like, like you were saying, what are you going to use for your 5 to 9, right? But if you know that your day, like your job doesn't start till 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, right? You got some hours before that.
Yeah.
Are you going to use them for anything?
And what are you doing outside of that? Because if your workout is 1 hour a day, which I will argue to the teeth, you can do more in 40 minutes than most people do in 2 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Because most people that say I was in the gym for 2 hours, right? The time you put in didn't matter.
5-minute break.
Did you sit there for
wipe it on the same toxins we're talking about?
Exactly, right? You can do more in the great Mike. It's skipping my name. He wore glasses. He was a big guy back in the day. It's Metz something. Mike Metz. He's scientific, very scientific. He always said that when he brought new clients in, the workouts would be 20 to 30 minutes. People would say, well, I can do more, Mike. He'd say, well, I'm not pushing you until you literally can't walk. I'm stimulating your muscles. And if you're trying to bodybuild, stimulating your muscles it's not anaerobic where you're trying to do it to the point you can't do it anymore and build some kind of like endurance that's, impassable. Yeah. Like that's not the point. I'm trying to push you to your limit in a short, stimulated manner that's going to build muscle, meaning that you can literally work smarter, not harder, right? At the same time, in 40 minutes to 1 hour, I can get 4 to 5 exercises in, 3 to 4 sets per. If I'm being very timely, if I'm being very stringent upon my rest, and get out of there with a good pump and knowing that I made progress, right? So 1 hour of 24 hours, what is the percentage on that? Pretty small, right? Yeah. Pretty damn small. It's 1/24th of your day. Yeah. That's it. 1/24th. Now, granted, there might be travel to the gym to back to home, whatever. But if you plan it correctly, it's 1/24th of your day, man. That's all it is. And if you're not telling me that that 1/24th of your day can make a better positive influence than spending half your day bullshitting around. Yeah. And there's no debate on that.
No, there isn't. And I think I'm such a big proponent of starting your day early, working out. I mean, us in the Army, we're waking up at, latest on an average 5:30 in the morning, every single morning, right? Latest at that point, right? On the weekends, I still do the same thing. I can't help it. I can't help it because I love the feeling of it's like that old what's his name? William. He's the Navy SEAL commander. He's the guy who did the whole speech about make your bed in the morning, blah blah blah. You accomplish a task, right? It gives you confidence, right? I have his book. I can't think of his name right now. But my point is, right? You wake up early in the morning, right? All right. Say your alarm goes off at fucking 4:30, 5 o'clock. You're already up. You're like, fuck, dude. All right. And you get out of bed. You get yourself out of bed, and sure, you make your bed or not, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. You get out of bed, right? You're like, oh fuck, I'm up. All right, whatever. You get your shit, you go to your car, it's freezing cold outside. Jesus Christ, you gotta let your car warm up. You're sitting in there, you're like, God damn it. And you're like, you know what? I'm already out here, right? Gym's 15, 20 minutes away. You start driving, right? You're there. And then you get out of your car, you walk into the gym. All right, like I'm here.
Nobody else is.
Nobody else is. This is an empty gym. I see these 2 other guys, right? I might as well make the most of it, right? I got time on my hand. It could be a Saturday. You don't got work. It could be like, oh, I got to get this done because I got to get back home, or I got to shower at the gym. I got to get to work, right? And obviously, you mentally feel better. You're mentally more active when you were physically fit. When you are pushing your body and controlling your mind to push your body more than your mind tells you that it can't go. Whether if it's in 40 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or 20 or 30 minutes, right? You're still going to gain something from that where you shower up, you go to work, boom. Everybody else, they just woke up an hour before they had to go to their shift or whatever it may be. And they're just dead inside. Oh, I need my 3rd cup of coffee, Steve. And I got, but you're primed. You're ready. You ate, you're good, you're ready to go. You knock out all your tasks. You get ahead of the next day's work, right? You get out of there, you go home, you're with your family. You do some things for leisure because there isn't anything wrong with that.
No,
we're not saying that
you have to
social
have
media. You need to have it. You need to have that release. You need to have that. All right, hey, I'm going to pump the brakes for a little bit here, right? But then you can do your side project. You can do mentally and physically healthy habits. You can sit down. You can stretch. You can journal. You can read. You can listen to a podcast or something like that, right? And you rinse and repeat. That to me, it's an ideal healthy lifestyle, right? And if you want to flip it the other way, you wake up in the morning, you do all those healthy habits, and then after your day of work, you go home, after work, you crank it out at the gym, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? Boom, I'm done. I can finally just go home and rest for the day, restart in the morning, right? There's nothing wrong. Everybody's so afraid of living this regimented lifestyle. When really they're just like, if they're traveling, if they're influencers or things like that, they're not actually doing anything.
No.
They're not actually doing anything. There's nothing wrong with living a regimented lifestyle. Because I'll tell you this right now. If you're somebody in athletics, sports, whatever, business pursuit, and you have all this, you're not regimented, you are never going to make it.
No.
You need to have structure. That's what's so great for so many people in the military. They needed that structure.
It's impossible not.
And there's some people who had that type of structure before they came in, and they find themselves at a higher level or a better starting point for success because they live so regimented that when they get into the military, they're like, oh, I used to do this on my own.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with this. I'm familiar with it.
Well, and what you're talking about is that by osmosis, you will develop the ability to unlock the time and the chances and the opportunities to do what you want to do without even thinking about it, right? It's going to happen.
It becomes habit.
Yeah. Well, it's more like I went to the gym in the morning and I worked all day and I'm not tired. Maybe I'll go do that thing I was thinking about doing.
Exactly.
Right? Maybe I'll go check out that comedy club because I want to go. Maybe one day I want to be there, right?
Yeah.
And maybe just going there and seeing like, well, that guy kind of sucked. I can do better than him.
Yeah.
Maybe that one chance, maybe that one day that you worked out in the morning and then you went to go see that guy and then you decided you could do that, that could have changed your whole life, right? Because every single person that thought they could be great, it took one moment for them to go, wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they were 3 years old or 30 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus Christ didn't start his ministry till he was 30 years old, right? Meaning that he was going to save the world as a full adult. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot. J.K. Rowling didn't write Harry Potter till she was a late adult. Yeah. I say late meaning like past your college years and things like that. Meaning that the things blocking you from your ultimate potential are only standing between your already habits, right? It goes right back to relationships, right? Meaning that I might meet. Everyone thinks that, like for men, I've never been a woman. Spoiler alert! So I'm not going to speak for women, but I'll speak for men. Thinking that when I meet Miss Right, I'll beat Mr. Right. That's bullshit. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? Transparency moment. I'm a piece of shit, right? I need some time off, right? I have been, like, for the audience, I am not the best guy in the book when it comes to relationships, so I'm taking some good time off to go work on me, right? Because if I don't do that, and I'm just in this mix of bullshit and situationships, do you think I'm going to meet the Jill Scotts of the world? And only a few viewers are going to know who that is. Do you think I'm going to meet the what's a white girl's version of that? The good girl that you always want to meet. I don't pay attention to the white people stuff.
I don't know.
Anne Hathaway. I don't know.
That might be wrong. But no, I get what you're saying, dude. And it's crazy because like
you have to change yourself first. If you don't set the parameters for your life to change, it's not going to happen, dude. You don't just come across great opportunities. You work and you work and you work and you build your life to create them. Yeah. It's what's it? People that work harder have better luck, right? Luck comes to those who work their ass off for it, right? Because if you're working your ass off, say you're the like you said you're with the construction work, you want to be the foreman. If you're already doing all the things and you're already being the man at your small little piece of the pie, if you have a good foreman, he probably notices, right? And when that opportunity comes up, he's probably the guy that comes up to you and says, "Dude, I know that you're the quiet guy. You're the guy that just works his butt off behind the scenes. Yeah. You're the one that should do this."
Well, you see that in the military a lot too.
All the time.
You see that the quiet dudes that like they have all the tools for the job to step up and be leaders, but they don't put themselves out there as much. But all of a sudden one day, boom, they're in charge of a team, and then you're like, what the hell, how did that happen? How did this guy get that,
Because he's been doing it with no influences.
And it's not even behind the scenes. He's just doing what's required. He's observing what's around him, right? And that's anything in any job too, right? And when you talk about blue collar jobs like construction worker, that electrician, I literally have a friend who's an electrician. One of my best friends, and he's a master of his craft now. He's gone through the ropes. He's been doing it for a while, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to start my own shop. Fuck being a foreman, right? Like I'm going to go start my own thing. Do or die, win or fail. I'm going to put myself out there and put my strengths to use.
Yep.
And I think overall, all of this is a big thing about what we're looking for here at WNY because, we just very, very, very in-depth highlighted the problem with, what is highlighted in social media in the world today and how it does have its positives, but there's a lot of negatives that come to it and a lot of negatives that people don't even realize is fucking up their own brains, their own chemical, electrical makeup, whatever it is, whatever the science is to it in their own brains, it's fucking them up.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so, on the website right now, we have a form, for people to join the team, right? And this is the thing how this team is. I want to take the time just to explain this real quick before we wrap it up. To join the WNY team, right, you don't need to be a bodybuilder, a MMA fighter, a college athlete, a professional, sports player or anything like that. You don't need to be a fitness influencer. You just have to be somebody who wants to be part of a team, right? A cohesive unit, a machine where all the parts are doing their job, to push one another, to hold each other, hold one another accountable in their pursuits, right? Even if, say you were trying to go become a pastor and I was trying to go become a classic, physique competitor or something like that, right? I don't know anything about being a pastor. You might not know anything about being a classic physique competitor, but we understand the principles of basic discipline, sacrifice. Like you said, sitting by yourself alone with your own thoughts and being able to formulate the right decisions, the right goals, the right path off of that, right? That's what we're trying to collect. And the process of it being a brand is to promote that from one another, right? It's no contracts are tied. It's not about money. It's not about selling the fucking, very, very low price apparel that we are selling. But
plug inputted.
But
buy the stuff. It's cheap.
Hey, it is cheap. It is cheap. It's high quality material. Don't dry on high heat, but physical stop. Right? But regardless of that, right? We're trying to create a community, right? You see fitness brands, what do? They just take the best looking, pretty boys and, the hot chicks in their gym apparel and they put them up there and they make everybody like, oh, that looks so good on her. Like, maybe I'll look like that good. And then they buy it and they're like, oh, I don't actually look that good because I'm not that person.
No.
And same thing with men. Obviously, it goes both ways. I'm not, that's how everything is, right? And, we're not talking about dark filters and, funk rap music or whatever the fuck it is or anything like that, right? We're talking about the fucking underdogs, right? We're not just underdogs, though, but the true go-getters who agree with everything that we've covered here today and want to take on this new year of 2024.
We are a legion, and if you're going to YouTube short anything, we are a legion of misfits, right? Like, for those listening, like, you're a short and stout guy. When you walk into a board, you are not the fucking prototypical 6 foot.
Nobody ever raises eyebrows when I walk into a board.
Not at all.
They go like.
And when I started my journey in cage fighting, I remember one time we were at JRTC and I was like, Jake, do I look fat? And he was like, duh, you look fat. You've been eating like shit. If I don't literally diet till I'm going to die, I have barely a 2-pack, right? Yeah. Not even. I do not look like a fighter at all. There's nothing about me that says I should be a professional athlete. There's nothing about the two of us that should be where we're at. But we are fucking leaders of men. We are alive individuals that are going to change the narrative of not only our lives, but of the lives of people around us. And Jake too, right? People who came from nothing. People who came from
Best Buy and bartending, and now he's one of the top soldiers in a unit.
100%. People who, if you were to forecast where should these people be, you would never in a million years think we're going to be here. But that's what the fuck we do, right? And that is what this brand is about. It's about taking people who should not be anywhere close to where they are, but they are. Why? Why not?
Yeah.
Not why. Why the fuck not? Because if more people on planet Earth started asking, well, I see 1 million people doing this, but why can't I do it? Then we would have 1 million more people that are where they should be. Whether that's the gas station manager or the CEO of the space program that gets us to colonize Mars.
Yeah.
Be happy where you are. But guess what? If that pushes you 5-10% above where you should be, then that's where the fuck we're happy to see you.
So, and with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. But if you made it through this whole episode and you got to listen to some very impactful, meaningful, authentic takes, just go home or continue your drive, whatever you do when you listen to a podcast, whether if you're in the gym, finish that last set, park the car, get in bed, turn your phone off. But before you do anything, just ask yourself, why not you?